Hello, what is up everyone, it is Truth Reviews here. I hope you've had a fantastic day, a fantastic week, a fantastic everything. I hope you guys are ready for a great video here because I got a good one for you guys. Just before we get into this, trying to reach 600 subscribers by the end of this month. Don't think it's going to happen now, but your support is always appreciated and I would appreciate a like or a subscribe, and feel free to comment guys, feel free to comment. Anyway, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Fallout 4 has 4 main factions, and I feel like I have said this a lot of times. But each faction has their own tone and own ending. For example, by picking the Minutemen ending, you ensure that the Commonwealth is safer from an Institute threat and an Institute kidnapping threat. You also ensure that 2 of the factions, the Railroad Brotherhood, will coexist together in harmony. If you pick the Brotherhood ending, in your mind you're stomping out the Institute and Railroad threats and making sure that technology belongs in the right people's hands. And if you do the Institute ending, you're ensuring that humanity's survival is maintained and is confirmed through the use of technology and science. And if you pick the Railroad ending, you're mentally ill, like you're the Joker's mentally ill. Fucking insane. No, seriously, all jokes aside, if you pick the Railroad ending, you're trying to ensure the Commonwealth is freer and more people-focused. You see, the thing I like about Fallout 4 is that while the factions are flawed, you can really tell the devs were trying to make you understand that each faction has something for it and against it. But the ways these factions achieve their goals are very simpler. While factions like the Brotherhood and the Railroad are more darker, don't tell me the Railroad aren't darker. They murder children, okay? Like, the Railroad are on a different level, okay? I'm convinced. They're on a different level. The Pripwin had children on it, okay? It's got kids. And they lied to that synth at the end of the game. And you betray father. You build his trust up. That there are... Anyway, sorry. But each faction, while they do morally grey things, they're all the good guys. There is not an evil faction, there's not a bad faction. Sure, in my opinion, you could say the Railroad is a more evil faction because of their ways they go about certain things, but you could similarly argue that the Institute or the Brotherhood are the exact same. And the Minutemen, well, come on now, if you think Preston Garvey is incapability of being evil, I think you need to take a look at yourself. Mind you, with the amount of quests he gives out, he probably is evil.
So what do you plan on doing about the jet problem in our community?
How about the settlement problem? Another settlement needs our help. I'll mark it on your map.
But today's video is not about the Minutemen, it's not about the Railroad, and it's certainly not about the Brotherhood or Institute. It's about a faction that had so much potential to do so well, but never even got the chance to fully exist. I'm not talking about the Raiders, as they get their chance to shine in Nuka World DLC. I'm not talking about the Supermutants, because while they shine in other games, in this game they're just used as sort of a fighting faction. And I'm not talking about any other sub-faction. Today, I'm talking about the Gunners. While I played through Fallout 4 originally, I just thought, okay, the Gunners are Raiders, but a lot stronger and more tactical. In reality, the more I look into it, and the more videos I watch on the Gunners, and the more I understand them, they had a lot of background lore, effort, funding, and overall just fun put into them that we never really got to see shine. I mean, don't you think it's kind of odd that the Gunners were primarily made for Fallout 4? Factions that are primarily made for a game you can normally interact with in some way or the other, but the Gunners, they're just a fighting faction. For people who don't understand, the Gunners are a mercenary paid group. So they're paid mercenaries, but they also have their own motives. We're unsure exactly what their motives are, or at least I am, but I believe it's moving through the ranks like an army does, and obtaining equipment and more military size and technology, a little bit like the Brotherhood. They resemble a more grounded military, however they have higher tech than normal raiders and super mutants do. They also seem more funded, and there are quite a few of them. So this makes me wonder why they weren't used as a main faction. Now you may be asking, Truth, how would you fit that into the game? How would you make them and work them around as a faction? And my one word to you is the Minutemen, because the Minutemen are the perfect way to introduce the Gunners. The whole reason the Minutemen collapse is because of the Gunners. Basically, as far as I'm aware on my Fallout lore and knowledge, there was a gunner who was basically in the Minutemen, but he betrayed them in Quincy, revealing to the Minutemen that he was working with the Gunners, and the Gunners launched a full-scale attack, making the Minutemen pretty much go completely extinct. So it's clear the Minutemen and Gunners definitely have beef, as this battle would have been ferocious and chaotic. So here's where I would slot the Gunners in to the story straight away. I would introduce the Gunners in one of the first quests you get, the quest where you meet Preston. Preston is the Minutemen general at the time because there's literally no one left. He's begging on his knees for help pretty much, as he has these survivors who depend on him. But you find him pinned down by raiders outside a museum. Now, instead of raiders being outside the museum shooting at Preston, why don't we replace them with Gunners? Now, I think this would work far better. Think of this, perhaps the Gunners were hunting down the last Minuteman, the last general, and they find Preston. Now you're introduced to your first two factions. Now obviously you couldn't just murder all the Gunners and have Preston talk to you about how evil they are, because then no one would pick them in the first place. Why don't you have an option to kill Preston and join up with the Gunners, kill the Gunners and join up with Preston, or diplomatically use a speech check or use some sort of evidence to get each faction to leave each other alone. Preston would more than likely be willing to talk it out with the Gunners because, one, he literally has nothing. He's only got a small laser gun, a laser musket, and a handful of survivors that really don't want to be killed. And the Gunners probably don't really want to risk their men getting killed over no technology, so I think this could work quite nice. Then you could have the Gunners say, hey, you handled that situation quite well, come back and meet us later, we'll have you do some jobs. And then obviously Preston's quest would continue the same. But by having the Gunners, we could alter the Minutemen quest as well. But before I talk about that, let me just talk about the Gunners quest. I think you would go back with the Gunners and continue doing some odd jobs for them. You'd meet their leader, their colonel, or whatever they have, and he'd introduce you to around an old military base. Their base could be an old pre-war, like torn up military base that they've ripped for scrap, and they formed this subrogated sort of strange army. Now the Gunners' main focus would be to eradicate all of the other factions and restore the Commonwealth to a militaristic style. Everywhere's patrolled, everything's under sections, everything's classified, a more imposed military role, but they'd give you very good payroll for every job you do. I definitely think they should pay the best, because I never feel like the Gunners are really they're really committed to the cause. They're definitely not like the Brotherhood, and they're not even really like the Institute. They're just sort of there for the paycheck, which is completely fine. By having the Gunners be more of a payroll, you can have them as this tough, mean role. I'm not saying make their motives make no sense. Obviously, perhaps they want the technology from the Institute, they'll want to kill their old rival, the Minutemen, and they'll need the technology from the Brotherhood. But have their faction be just a little bit more brutal, just a little bit more hostile. The Gunners are always hostile to you, and that to me makes no sense, because there are many YouTubers who have covered this, but the Gunners recruit people from the Commonwealth. So why the fuck are they hostile if they need the recruits? And the Gunners to me seem very strong in numbers. You see them quite a lot. Like, they're a decently strong faction in numbers. Not as strong as the Brotherhood or the Institute, but they're a decently strong faction in numbers. I would also do something with a Gunner companion. Perhaps McCree could fit more into their quest line. You could either bring him back to the Gunners, or if you failed his quest, or if you pissed off McCree, he'd go and join the Minutemen and join up against you. This would create a fun dynamic. Or perhaps you could bring McCree back to the Gunners and have him become your companion / like partner. Stuff like this I think would do extremely well as a Gunners quest. I would have the main rivalry be with the Minutemen. The Gunners want revenge, and the minute you betray the Minutemen, or the minute Preston catches on that you're working with the Gunners, Preston would build his own army. You'd lose all your settlements, and it would be you and the Gunners' job to go and get them back. Now, obviously, taking settlements would be a pain in the arse, so I would definitely make it so that raider outposts, because the Gunners do trade, and they might have ceasefires with certain groups, I'd say you can be able to bypass certain raider outposts. I think this would be a cool feature. While I know the Gunners are hostile to everyone, something like this would balance it out a little bit. And then, if you betray Preston, he would build the castle up, and you'd have to full-on assault it. This would be the final thing you do. Every faction's final thing is taking down the Institute, taking down the Institute, taking down the Institute. Whereas with the Gunners, I don't think I'd have this. I'd have the Minutemen as the last fight. I'd make it so Preston's able to build up his forces over and over and over. And also, I feel like you could get a really cool sort of feeling of community and just soldierism, like here. I don't know how they'd get into the Institute. I'm trying to think now. I feel like the Brotherhood, they'd sort of do a main assault. The Railroad would be easy, they'd flush them out. The Minutemen, they would go straight in for a main assault. perhaps the Institute, perhaps they could take over the IT tower first, like the above of the Institute, and then infiltrate it from above, or something like that, with controlled explosives, or use another faction to enter. Who knows? Something like that would be cool. In order of factions getting eradicated, I would obviously leave the Minutemen till last, and I would then have the Institute. The Gunners are not extremely strong, so I feel like your quest line would mostly just be building them up, recruiting new soldiers, taking down Brotherhood factions and departments where you can. But if you choose the Gunners, from the start, factions are gonna hate you, and it won't be long till you get that top in the screen, that top right thing in the screen that says, you are now enemy of Brotherhood, you are now enemy of Institute, you are now enemy of, well, it doesn't say it for Railroad because they're irrelevant, but it does for the Minutemen, so, you know, you are now enemy of these factions. So, I would have you definitely take out the Brotherhood first. I feel like they want that bulk gone, so you take out the Brotherhood, you go for the Railroad, just clear them up, take out the Institute, and then you have the main assault on the Minutemen. And after that, the Gunners are not done. I would definitely have their quest continue. I would have them have a campaign launch into the middle of the Commonwealth, especially where places like Super Mutant Island is. I just call it Super Mutant Island. I think it's an actual fort. It's where you go with Dansk and Elder Max and send you to destroy, kill all those super mutants and take back the mini nuke like station over there. I would have them launch a war on the super mutants and kill all them. They'd go for the Children of Atom. They'd definitely go for the heart of the Commonwealth and try and like control it. And I'd have a campaign into Good Neighbor and Diamond City, because I feel like they would want to control these areas and reinforce them to their will. The Gunners are a pushy faction, remember, they're a hard man faction. You have to have them push and just really deal some damage. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. This has been my look into what I think the Gunners should be, should have been, could have been, whatever you want to say. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below for different factions you would have liked to see. Perhaps you would have liked to see a Children of Atom, Super Mutants, a Raider. We got that sort of in Nuka World though, I'm pretty sure. But leave your comments down below. Do you think my idea is complete dog shit? Do you think it's great? Let me know. If you've made it to the end of the video, let's just face it, you really want to subscribe. So smash the subscribe button. Yeah, hit the subscribe button if you can, guys. I'd really appreciate it. Any support I get is good support. So thank you guys ever so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Stay safe, guys. Thank you.